Everyone in Lagos knows Balogun Market never truly sleeps. But for Chike, a struggling shoe trader, it had become a living nightmare. His business was on life support. The dollar rate was climbing, customers were nowhere to be found, and his landlord's threats to lock him out were getting more serious by the day. One Thursday evening, as he sat in front of his stall, just staring at rows of unsold shoes, a woman approached him. She wore a flowing green wrapper that seemed to shimmer under the dim market lights. Her face was partially hidden, but her voice was smooth, carrying an air of authority. "You're tired, Cheek," she said. It wasn't a question. He blinked, completely thrown off. "Madam, do I know you?" A faint smile touched her lips. "No, but I know you're kind. Hardworking, unlucky, and desperate for a breakthrough." He shifted uncomfortably. "If you're here to preach—" "I don't preach," she interrupted. "I only help people who are ready to make real money." That got his full attention. "There's a special market," she continued, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "It opens right here in Balogun at 2 a.m. Not everyone can see it, but if you're bold enough to go, everything you buy there will multiply in value by morning." Chike frowned. "Madam, 2 a.m.? Who's selling anything at that hour?" She let out a soft chuckle. "Those who don't need light to see their customers." Before he could ask another question, she turned and just vanished into the crowd. She didn't walk away. She didn't run. She was just gone. That night, sleep was impossible for Chika. Her words echoed in his mind. A special market. Everything multiplies. What did he have to lose? His shop was already sinking, and his debtors had stopped picking up his calls. This felt like his only chance. At 1:30 a.m., he quietly left his house, clutching a small bag filled with what little cash he had left. The streets were eerily silent, the only sounds being the low hum of streetlights and the distant barking of a dog. When he got to Balogun Market, it looked exactly as you'd expect. Completely abandoned. Stalls were locked up, massive gates were shut, and a few stray cats roamed the empty pathways. He felt foolish and was about to turn back, laughing at himself for believing such a crazy story. But then he heard it. A faint bell, ringing from deep inside the market. He followed the sound, his heart pounding. He found a smaller gate, pushed it, and it swung open. He stepped through and into a world that defied all logic. The market was alive. Every stall was glowing with a soft, internal light. Traders stood behind their tables, smiling warmly at him. The light wasn't from bulbs or lanterns. It came from the goods themselves. Clothes shimmered, phones sparkled, and jewelry glowed like captured starlight. The air was a strange mix of roasted corn and expensive perfume. "Customer, come!" a man shouted, waving him over. "Everything is cheap tonight." Chike approached cautiously. The man was tall, and his eyes seemed to shine a little too brightly in the dim light. "How much for these shoes?" Chika asked, pointing to a pair of what looked like genuine Italian leather. "Just 500 naira," the man said with a wide grin. Cheek laughed out loud. 500? For Italian leather? You must be joking." "Buy it and see," the man replied, his smile never wavering. So he bought 2 pairs. Then another trader called out to him. "Customer, buy my phones. Original Samsung, only 1,000 naira each." Within 30 minutes, Chiki had spent all his money, buying everything he could carry. Shoes, phones, wristwatches, fabrics, all at prices that were simply impossible. The sellers gave him handwritten receipts, and the ink glowed with a faint red light. As he turned to leave, his arms full, he saw her. The woman in the green wrapper standing by the gate, smiling at him. "You did well," she said. "Now go home before the cock crows." By the time he got back to his room, the first light of dawn was breaking. He dropped the heavy bags on the floor and collapsed onto his bed, exhausted but ecstatic. Finally, his luck had turned. When he woke up hours later, sunlight was streaming through his window. He jumped up, excited to inspect his haul, and his blood ran cold. The shoes were gone. The phones had vanished. The fabrics had disappeared. The bags were empty. He frantically searched the room, thinking he must be dreaming. He tore the bags open again. Nothing. Then he saw the receipts, still lying on the floor. They were still there, but the glowing red ink had turned into a dark, dried crust. When he touched it, his fingers came away stained. It was blood. Panic seized him. He stumbled outside, shouting for help. His neighbor, Mama Ifeoma, came out and just stared at him like he had lost his mind. "What blood?" "Cheek, you better go and rest your head," she said, looking concerned. He ran all the way back to Balogun. The market was now its usual chaotic, noisy self. He went from trader to trader, desperately asking if anyone had seen a woman in a green wrapper. No one had. Finally, an old cobbler who worked near the main gate pulled him aside. "Young man," he whispered, his eyes darting around nervously. "You went there, didn't you?" Cheek was confused. "Went where?" "The night market," the old man said, his voice barely audible. "I warned the last person who tried it. That place, it isn't for the living. Those traders you saw, they all died in the market fire 15 years ago. They sell to the desperate, but every sale costs a life." Cheik's mouth went dry. "Whose life?" The cobbler just shook his head slowly. "You'll find out soon enough." Cheik tried to laugh it off. "Baba, I don't believe in all that juju." But that night, he couldn't sleep a wink. His phone rang. It was a strange, unknown number. When he answered, there was only silence on the other end. Then he heard it, the faint sound of footsteps and that distant, ringing bell. The next day he went to check on his younger brother, Nonso, who was visiting from school. But Nonso was gone. The neighbors said he'd left early that morning, telling them he was going to help Cheeky at his shop. Cheek's heart stopped. He sprinted to his shop. The door was wide open, and there, in the middle of the floor, lay one of the glowing receipts, now slick and fresh with wet red ink. On it, a new line had appeared, written in a clear, sharp script. "Payment received." He collapsed to the ground. Days bled into weeks. Cheek stopped trading. He stopped caring about anything. He started wandering the market at night, a ghost himself, searching endlessly for the woman in green. Some say they still see him sometimes, standing by the locked gates at midnight, whispering to himself. And now, when the early morning traders arrive to set up their stalls in Balogun, they sometimes find a trail of footprints on the dusty floor. Wet, barefoot prints leading toward the east gate. No one knows whose they are. But old Baba the cobbler just shakes his head and mutters, "Another desperate one has joined the night market."